As couples live together and grow together, they change and evolve with the changing seasons. Hopefully, this evolving and growth will be in the right direction. And today, I want us to take a look at the importance of self-development in a marriage relationship. My name is Doshima Olive Paul, and I welcome you to today's episode. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time here, thank you once again. Kindly click on the subscribe button and do make sure that you give this video a thumbs up. Kindly leave your comment in the comment section below so that I can know what you think about this video. As I mentioned earlier, today we'll be looking at 3 areas in which is very important that you self-develop or improve yourself to help improve your marriage relationship. The first thing we'll be looking at is the need to self-improve in order to have some level of independence. In today's world, our society has kind of changed. Back in the days of our mothers, you sat at home, the fathers went out and did everything. But in today's world, based on a lot of factors, the need, the pressure from society, almost every man needs a woman that would at least be able to do 1 or 2 things, if for herself or even for the family. So it's a very important point that you self-develop in order to maintain some level of independence, and this will protect you in case of unforeseen circumstances or in case of eventualities that we can't even pray for. I'll tell you a story. Back when I was a child, I grew up in a church where we had this professor who had lived in the US for several years. He was well educated. He had spent most of his life there, came home, but he wasn't married. He was almost 50 years when he came back to Nigeria. Being the kind of person that he was, very principled person, a kind of a perfectionist. Somehow, I couldn't understand why he couldn't get a girl on campus, though he was in a campus environment. They brought him a wife from the village. Now, when she came to town, I didn't notice him doing anything intentional to improve her educational status. The lady, on the other hand, was the happiest woman you could imagine. I guess she felt she was married to a professor and probably better than most of her friends in the village. On coming to the city, she began to have children. Every year, she gave birth to a child. Within 6 or 7 years, you could count the number of children she had. Everywhere she went, there were children all around. There is nothing wrong with having children. That is one of the purposes of getting married. And that is one of the benefits, the blessings of marriage. Now, as this was going on, when you begin to have kids every year, it's very challenging. Age was not necessarily on her husband's side. He was probably about 60 years old. All of a sudden, the man went down with an ailment. There were moves to manage him. I'm aware they went to the hospital and a lot of things were going on. Sadly, one day, we were all told that he had passed away. It was such a sad day. They came from a culture where when the man dies, the brother of the man inherits all of his property. So the brother came over to collect his gratuity and his benefits from his workplace. Of course, like I told you, he was a professor, so his benefits were reasonably, large. It was discovered that his brother was his next of kin. Now, that is another thing that self-development will do for you. The gap within these people was so wide. I don't even think if this woman knew anything about next of kin, but by this time she had 7 kids on her hands with no job. She was a stay-at-home mom and very, very little education. By the time the brother came to inherit the property, luckily the church where he belonged to was made up of a lot of educated people, because they were able to interfere and intervene, put the man under pressure to support this woman. He was not even willing. It dragged on. Eventually, he had to give in to the demands of the church, and he gave her some money. Now, this is one interesting thing that the university did for this family. They were willing to give the wife a job immediately. And what the vice chancellor did was to ask, okay, what's her qualification, so that we could give her an employment to help her take care of the kids of this professor, who was well respected. I mean, he was trained abroad, he was well regarded. They wanted to do everything in their power. The lady had very little qualification. The university was willing to make her a lecturer, but they couldn't because she didn't have the requirements. They still ended up giving her an employment. I think it was in a primary school or so, and they gave her an apartment. They went from living in a duplex down to a 2-bedroom apartment. It was a very challenging experience for this woman, and the kids were still very young. Thankfully, that's years later, and a lot has gone on. But watching what this woman had to go through, watching the change in status, watching the pressure on her that came so suddenly, and she was not prepared in any way. Nobody wishes to be in that situation. But if only while she was with him, she had made some effort to self-improve. They were together for about 12 years or more, I think. And that was enough time to at least improve herself and be in a better financial situation to take care of her 7 kids. This is just one aspect, but very, very important. Self-development will give you some level of independence, whether it's a man or a woman. It is very important. She would have been better prepared to absorb this kind of shock. I have seen a situation where someone else in the same environment, he got married to a lady whom he brought from his village. I think she had just had her secondary school certificate. Shortly after he got married to her, he got a scholarship, took her abroad, and she began to improve. She got the first degree. Years later, she was able to get the second degree. Long and short of the story, that lady ended up becoming a professor. It was such a beautiful story. And those of us who knew her way back, it was such an amazing thing to know that somebody could become like that. And she ended up being a very relevant professor in that university. That kind of woman would have more independence, and she would be in a better position to support her husband. He wouldn't always have to carry the whole responsibility because the weight might be too much for him. So self-development in the area of your career and core competence is key in improving, helping your marriage relationship in a diverse number of ways. The second important reason why it's necessary for you to develop yourself in an evolving marriage relationship is to protect you from being despised. When you are in this relationship called marriage, there may be a situation where you have to, go somewhere with your partner. Using the woman I was talking about, you are dealing with a professor. He used to speak Queen's English. In fact, I loved hearing him speak because he spoke so well. And having this woman, sincerely, I was a witness. She was always looking like a house girl around him. He didn't relate with her the way I imagined a husband and wife should relate, even though then I was just a child. You could see her, she was always just tagging along with her many children at the back. In fact, they were driving in his bus because he had a bus because the kids were too many. She would sit at the back with the kids. I mean, she looked like their caregiver. I felt to some extent this woman was being despised, and it had nothing else to do than because of her level and because she had not been improved. If he was married to someone else or someone who had grown with time and evolved, I don't think he will make her behave that way or keep her like that at the back with the kids, except she chose to, or for the safety of the children. That kind of woman, if there's a board meeting, he will not take her there. He won't take her there. In fact, there are some kind of meetings that will come up. He'll say, please, leave that woman. She doesn't know what we're talking about here. It can make you be despised. When he's talking to her colleagues, he might want to give more reference or regard to even his colleagues than his wife. Now, that is not a good place to be. Just because within that number of years, there has been no improvement. Now, this is not to say one person is to blame. And you, the person who has gone ahead or who is much better, you need to also carry your partner along. Don't just let them, tag along and then they're just the same way that they met you. This is not a competition, mind you, but you need to improve. If not, your partner may begin to despise you without even knowing. He may be a very nice person, but he just find himself leaving you out. So develop yourself in the area of your core competence, no matter what it is. Make sure that you are improving. Another reason, the third and the last for now, reason why you should improve yourself in order to enhance your marriage relationship is to make yourself irreplaceable. There are situations where if you don't improve yourself to match up the social status or otherwise of your partner, after a while, you might not be able to fit in to whatever they are doing. I've seen a situation where a man married another woman to come and become his first lady because he felt that the woman who was the first wife would not be able to match his social status as a governor. For goodness sake, when she met him, he wasn't a governor. So when he was evolving into this governor, what was she doing? She was probably sitting in the kitchen, eating more and more chicken and rice, feeling that, oh, now there's a lot of money to spend. She was not thinking about, okay, let me improve my vocabulary. Probably the only thing she knew how to speak, in her own case, I'm referring to a woman who was speaking her language most of the time. The only thing she knew, and her husband, who also spoke that language, began to speak good English because he was now mixing with people who are educated, with politicians, with people of timber and caliber. She was there in the kitchen, busy eating more rice, chicken, and pork. By the time he became the governor, he needed a woman who could have intelligent conversations, a woman who had evolved, a woman who knew what was going on in the world, who could talk about social things. It is so important. You need to develop yourself. The same way you were dressing when you met your husband may not be the same way you should be dressing now, because status is changing. I told you we expect that this growth process should be in the right direction. What are you looking to do to improve yourself today? Think about it. If your wife has been complaining, oh, you don't dress well, or you don't iron your clothes, you should be thinking about it, so that you don't go into an occasion and then she doesn't want to introduce you to anybody. She's acting like she came there alone. Probably she's becoming ashamed of you and your lack of self-development. These are painful realities. They are true, and sometimes couples don't want to talk about it. I want you to think about yourself today. What areas do I want to improve? What kind of person do I want to be? You're looking to get married to a doctor. You have big dreams of getting married to somebody that is of a particular social status, and you don't want to improve yourself. Most of the time, that person will be looking higher. Improve yourself. It helps fuel the love. It helps enhance the relationship. It can reduce friction in certain ways that you cannot imagine. There are some people, your spouse is saying, oh, you don't smell good, and you're there arguing and quarreling. That is not the time to argue and quarrel. Go and learn how to buy perfume. Maybe they would like to take you out more. Go and learn how to dress the way they usually like. Maybe they would love to show you off some more. Self-development is key in the growth process of our evolving marriage relationship. No marriage is static, and make sure that yours is growing in the right direction. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I know that the Lord will make your marriage a beautiful, well-watered garden. The Bible tells us that the path of the just is like the shining light that shines brighter and brighter unto a perfect day. God expects that we should be growing. God expects that our lives should get better and better with every passing day. What are you doing to improve yours? It's scriptural and it is correct. I wouldn't love to end this broadcast without asking you to make Jesus the Lord of your life. He is the reason why I'm doing this. He is the reason why we are living. He is the reason why our lives are going from one level of glory to another. I want to introduce you to this Jesus who can save you, who can cause your path to shine brighter and brighter, who can give you the ideas that you need to improve your marriage relationship. He says, come unto me and I will give you rest. Just pray this simple prayer with me if you want to make the Lord Jesus the Lord of your life. Father, today I ask that you come into my life. Forgive me my sins. Come and live in me and help me to be who you've called me to be, in Jesus' name. Thank you once again. Remain blessed.